The thing with South Petherton is that everyone is really friendly.
It's a lovely community spirit, everyone's really friendly. There's a wide variety of shops.
Lots of wide open spaces, good for walking, nice country pubs near to the seaside. Generally a very nice place to live.
It's a great place to bring up my children. The schools here are fantastic.
When you go out, people say hello to you. You don't know who they are, and you might meet them again, you might not. But people are very friendly.
It's an interesting place. There's lots of diversity. There's lots of diversity in age and different types of people. I also really like the proximity to a main road, strangely, because you can get out of the village and be on your way somewhere without going for ages down narrow country lanes, which is excellent.
There's a real push to get people to think about not using their cars so much for small journeys, but people would do that if there was reliable public transport. There isn't reliable public transport.
We used to have 4 bus companies actually terminate here, and now we've only got 1.
Parking and traffic would be better if the rules of the road were followed better and enforced better in the village, perhaps. People park on double yellows, on zigzag lines outside schools, that sort of thing, and if that was discouraged better, people would park more considerately.
People park in the main street, in St James's Street, and sometimes it's a one-way system. You have to stop to allow other people to come in the other direction.
I suppose the worst thing about the village at the moment is the parking. Sometimes the village is crammed up and it's difficult to park.
I think the crime is fairly low, but I would like to see more police patrols in the village.
The biggest issue for me is the use of the village as a through route by heavy vehicles, and particularly tractors that are dangerous and not designed for use on public roads, that go speeding through the village when they could be using alternative routes to go around the village.
There are bits of the day, particularly around school start or ending time, where there's a problem. You often get that in any village, any place where there's people having to use cars for transporting children.
Well, if you have a medieval town, you're obviously not going to have wide lot of parking spaces, and that is a problem for us. And nearly all the empty land has been built on because the periphery is full of Grade 1 agricultural land, and therefore we haven't been building on it until the last few year or so.
I would use part of the school sports ground. They've got a large field, there's plenty of space there. If they could tarmac some of that, use it as a dropping off point for the children or extra parking when needed, it would alleviate a lot of the frustration for the residents in our street, Hayes End.
Around the junior school is a big issue as far as I'm concerned. As I say, I've got a few concerns with the walking to school, but around the junior school in the mornings can be a nightmare, and we have a very good lollipop man, but I do have concerns that I'm quite surprised that past the junior school we don't have a 20 mile an hour limit, as you do past most junior schools in this kind of area.
Opportunities for bits of central village land that could have been used for car parking or public have been used for private development.
There's not enough parking in the new houses, and the residents are parking in the car parks. What could be done, I don't know. I would hate to say charge for parking in the car parks. I'd hate to say that because I'd be one of the people that would also be affected, and it would deter. Free parking is good for the village.
We all hate the traffic wardens if they come in. We don't think it's necessary for them to come into a small village where it can make such an impact on people coming in and think, oh, if you get there and the parking ward's there, no, we'll go on.
It feels like a sledgehammer to crack a nut, having parking fines imposed on people in the village who are just going about their business.
Free parking is used up by people who live in the village, and they leave it there overnight and 2 or 3 days on end sometimes. The thing is, I think it's a village, and if people are going to come into village, they've got to accept that the traffic isn't going to flow that readily. I don't think it's a big deal. It's a village. That's what makes it the way it is. The bus drivers manage to fight their way through, as
do the trucks and the tractors. You know, I like the fact that there are tractors coming through the village. I think that's really good.
There are no public toilets in the village, which I think is a big downside, because any visitors that come to the village, obviously, I mean, they come in and they use the shops' loos and things like that, but it stops people staying for any length of time. One thing I have noticed is that there are no lowered curbs for wheelchairs, and I think that that would probably be something that would be quite necessary if you were older. And the post office, you can't get into it, there are steps. Something would need to be done there.
The shops are very good, but they need support. If people go to supermarkets all the time, it's nice to do both, but they need to support the shops here as well.
There's lots of small businesses around here, lots of large business, so it's quite diverse.
I mean, we've got lovely butchers and bakers and fruit shop and most other things, apart from one that would sell tins and, everyday sort of thing.
I just hope a lot of the local shops don't close down, and hope people keep using them as opposed to going to the big out of town, mega shopping centres and the big supermarkets. Because once those start shutting down, the village will die.
We've had a bit of a problem because a couple of years ago we lost our doctor's surgery to the hospital, so that was a big footfall where we can't improve on that because the doctor's surgery's gone and they took with them a chemist, so we've lost a lot of people using the chemist and the local doctor here in the village.
Recently had the bank closed, which is a big problem for a lot of people, especially the elderly people who can't necessarily drive or don't use internet banking. So with increases to the population, services like that I would have thought should be fairly fundamental, and that seems to be going in the wrong direction.
That is a great blow, I think, because I suppose quite a lot of people won't come to Petherton because they can't get the banking facility.
The post office is taking over some of the bank use, but there are certain things which the post office doesn't do. So the bank has been missed by a few people.
We've lost our bank, and that means we have no people coming in from the surrounding villages to bank because they go elsewhere, because they like to go where they bank, so therefore we all suffer. I'm sure the local vegetable shop, the local coffee shops, the butchers, all these little shops have definitely noticed a footfall of people, and I don't think it'll be very long that if we don't meet our targets in the day, there will be closures of business, and that will be quite a difficult problem for people who live in the village who won't be able to shop locally.
Maybe we could have the bank back. I think that really would pep it all up again.
People who've moved into the new housing estate, hopefully they're not just getting in their cars and going off to Yeovil and Taunton every time they want to shop.
I would perhaps like to see the co-op, which is our main source of bulk buying, made a little bit bigger.
Because the elderly people need to be able to get their shopping locally, because the transport links are diabolical.
We need a bit more competition in the shopping in this village, I think.
I think we definitely need a market, because again it's an event in the village. We do very well when the folk festival comes on, but as that has market stalls in it, and I think we just really need events just to bring people in.
With so many shops closing in the village as well, I think it would be a real success.
A small market might help a bit, but I emphasise small because the shopkeepers wouldn't want too much competition, but once a month, say a few stalls might help.
I think by having a market it would just lighten the village up a bit and bring more people in. There's a lot of people against the market, especially some of the shop owners. You can understand how they feel being shop owners, but on the other hand, we're not looking to push the shopkeepers out. We want to involve them in this. So we've offered all shopkeepers first refusal for a stall. Our aim is to work with shopkeepers and put them first.
Well, obviously the big cry everybody is saying about the need for houses for first-time buyers. I mean, this is the big need in this village, as it is in nearly all villages around here.
And I hadn't realised until I cycled up to the hospital how much new housing there is. It's huge, and I know that that's necessary, but it could be detrimental to the village because it's beginning to sprawl, and I think if we're going to have that level of development, we're going to need to have adequate resources and amenities to support that.
Availability of affordable rent is just non-existent, and the housing market, the housing they've just built in the village is unbelievably expensive. I don't believe anybody from the village has actually bought a house locally just recently.
My family do live outside because they couldn't afford to buy properties in South Petherton, and that is by nature of the fact that this is a lovely village. People want to come here, people from outside can afford to pay the prices to come here, but the people that are born and bred here can't afford to get on that property ladder.
The people that are born and brought up in a community, there's no opportunity for a lot of these people to get onto the property ladder with the high property prices.
Not just affordable housing, but affordable housing for local families. So it's you have to have a connection to the village to live there, or just a proportion to enable families that live here to stay here.
But I'm slightly concerned about the new houses going up and where the extra children are going to go, because they are at full capacity now. Both the schools are. So whether they could think about building another school, possibly a primary school, that might be a good move, I think, because obviously they're stretched to the rafters at the moment. There just isn't the room.
Personally, I don't think new builds would have a great effect on schools, because I know there's a lot of parents at the moment who like to take their children elsewhere to school. And I don't think that's because there's no room in the school, because that's their personal choice. So I don't think so, no.
This park is brilliant, but there's not a lot for little ones. It doesn't affect me because my youngest is 10 now, but is that the only thing here? So if they're going to improve it, I think looking at funding to provide an area for younger children. There's not that much in the park for the younger children. They live in a fantastic park, but there's not much for the younger children.
The educational facilities in South Petherton have always been pretty good. I mean, I've got a good Ofsted report for our junior school. I feel that the traffic outside and the location of the schools might not be the best, but I think the schools themselves are very good.
I think it's great that the infant school was able to maintain a presence in the middle of the village rather than get moved to the outside. Probably building a new primary school might improve the facilities for children and parents in the village.
At present, we're very lucky. We've got 2 schools that have been rated outstanding. I don't think there are many places that can say that. I think it'll be a case really of maintaining, as I say, with other issues in the village, maintaining such a high standard rather than necessarily improving it. But as long as it can be maintained, I think we're very lucky.
We could do with more education, evening classes and things of interest perhaps for the older generation.
I come and watch the plays and things like that. I go to the Blake Hall quite a bit now just to hear what's happening with the parish council.
I've used it for all council meetings and our CLT meetings.
I think with the Blake Hall, a lot of people have issues with the stair lift, especially for disabled people. It's hard for them to get in.
They have some really amazing things on in the David Hall, music venue wise, and I just can't afford to go.
I have been to events at the Blake Hall and it was good, but maybe they need to advertise locally that the facilities do exist.
It's been really good through this consultation process to see that the community spirit is here in South Petherton, alive and well, and that people want to get involved with the future of our town and our village, and they want their voices heard, so they're coming forward and giving those opinions, and it's really valuable for us moving forward to use those opinions in making decisions and what we're going to do in the future, because it does involve us all, because we all live here.